Some stories begin with loud sirens or flashing lights, but this one began with silence. A silence so profound it seemed to hum with meaning. There, at the edge of Elm Street, where the concrete cracked with time and weeds whispered secrets between the sidewalk lines, a scraggly orange cat stood like a lone sentinel before a storm drain, unmoving, unblinking, unwavering. 3 days, 3 nights. Rain had soaked his matted fur, turning it from amber to rust. The sun had baked him until steam rose off his back in the morning hours. And still he refused to leave. No food, no rest, no distraction. His golden eyes, fierce with purpose, never left the darkness below. It was as if he was watching a doorway to another world, one only he could see. Passers-by paused, some out of curiosity, others out of concern. But no one, not a single person, could make sense of it. What they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly understand, was that this wasn't stubbornness. This wasn't feline eccentricity. This was a mission. A rescue, and what lay beneath that street would unveil not just one, but 4 unbelievable secrets. Secrets that would pierce hearts, stir souls, and remind humanity of something it had nearly forgotten: the undying loyalty of creatures we call just animals. Even the smallest of souls can carry the loudest call for help, if we dare to listen. It all began with Maria Santos. She wasn't searching for miracles that morning, just another jog. Another step in a life filled with schedules and steps and structure. But on that misty dawn, something pulled her gaze off the path. There, that same orange blur, motionless at the drain's edge. She'd noticed him earlier that week, but this morning, the weight of his stillness felt different, unsettling. She slowed, stopped. His damp fur glistened under dew, untouched by movement. His eyes were fixed, and for a moment Maria felt like she was intruding on something sacred. He hasn't even flinched, she whispered to herself. It's like he's guarding something. That observation sparked a ripple. By mid-morning, the entire neighborhood seemed to awaken to the mystery. Mrs. Eleanor Kowalski, peering from her third-floor window, watched with furrowed brows. Mr. Hassan, watering his plants, was drawn in too. One by one, the residents stopped. What they were doing, not just to observe, but to feel, to sense. Because in a world full of noise, this cat's silence screamed. Mr. Hassan crouched beside him and spoke with the softness reserved for sacred things. The cat glanced at him, and in those eyes was something deeper than fear. It was urgency. A meow escaped him, not a cry. Not a complaint, a message? A plea. The animal who speaks without words speaks to the soul, not the ears. By noon, the air on Elm Street had shifted. The hush of mystery had become the hum of concern. Word spread like wildfire, not through texts or tweets, but through the oldest method of all, human voices carried on breath and wonder. Children on bicycles stopped to whisper. Elderly couples leaned on each other, squinting toward the drain. Even Frank Morrison, who had lived there for 40 years and trusted only what he could see, muttered, "I've never seen anything like this, not once, and I've seen plenty." The cat, as if fueled by the growing human attention, began to pace. 2 steps forward, then a return, back and forth, never leaving the drain. Never breaking formation? "He's begging for help," said Jenny Park, her infant cooing in a stroller beside her. "But he won't abandon, whatever it is." It was Frank who finally made the call. His gruff voice didn't hide his concern as he reported the behavior to animal control. "This cat knows something's wrong. And if he's asking, we better answer. When the wild reaches out, it doesn't ask for rescue. It offers us a chance to redeem ourselves." Officer Sarah Chan arrived with the quiet urgency of someone who's seen it all, or so she thought. In her 8 years on the force, she'd dealt with panicked dogs, furious raccoons, even a runaway llama. But this felt different. The moment her boots touched the curb, the cat didn't hiss. Didn't run? He looked at her with eyes that glistened with relief. Then he meowed, soft, insistent, and turned back toward the drain. Sarah knelt, pulled out her flashlight, and leaned in. At first, just darkness, concrete and shadows, but then a whimper, faint, barely audible. But there, alive. "Oh my God," she whispered, heart racing. She stood, dirt on her knees, urgency in her voice. "We've got something down there. Something alive." Within minutes, Elm Street became a corridor of hope. Fire trucks, police units, rescue vans. Flashing lights reflected in the cat's golden eyes, but he didn't flinch. He just waited, trusted, believed. Sarah looked at him again and said, "You weren't just waiting, you were praying." Faith isn't only found in churches or temples. Sometimes it waits at storm drains in the form of a soaked stray. Firefighter Jake Rodriguez had rappelled from trees and rooftops. He'd faced flames that licked at his heels. But that day, as he looked into the dark hole and saw the trust in a cat's eyes, something hit him differently. He nodded to his captain, "I'm going down." As he descended into the earth, into silence, all eyes above held their breath. The beam of his flashlight sliced through the blackness like a sword, and in its glow, two trembling forms. A kitten, no older. Then a whisper. And beside it, a puppy, eyes wide and soaked in fear. "They're alive," Jake called up. "Scared, but alive." Above ground, a murmur swelled, sorrow, joy, disbelief, all wrapped in one. Sarah leaned forward. "Bring them home." Jake's voice trembled as he coaxed them gently. "No sudden moves. Just words, soft, constant, comforting. You're not alone anymore," he whispered. "Your guardian's been waiting." Sometimes the truest shepherd is one who never speaks, only watches, waits, and believes. The moment Jake surfaced, kitten in arm, a miracle unfolded. The orange cat, who had been a statue for so long, sprang to life. His body trembled with joy. His cries turned melodic, chirps, trills, pure ecstasy. He reached on hind legs, trying to climb toward the tiny bundle. Jake, overwhelmed, handed the kitten to Sarah. "Let me get the pup too," he smiled. The cat, wild with relief, didn't care for protocol. He was already licking the kitten, even as it trembled in Sarah's arms. Moments later, the puppy emerged, floppy ears, drenched fur, unsure paws. But the instant he reached the surface, he didn't hesitate. He ran straight to the cat, and there, in front of an entire street, a makeshift family reunited. The cat began grooming both, meticulously, frantically, as if trying to erase the days of fear and restore warmth with every lick. Dr. Patricia Williams, kneeling beside them, whispered in awe, "This isn't instinct, this is love. Blood does not define family, love does. And sometimes that love is covered in fur." Sarah's hands were trembling slightly as she continued recording everything on her phone, the tense rescue, the reunions, the relief. She told herself it was for documentation, part of her report for animal control. But deep down, she knew it was something more. She was capturing living proof that something sacred had happened here, something that would get lost in memory. If not caught in the lens. "What do you think, Doc?" she asked, her voice still tight with adrenaline. Dr. Patricia Williams, her eyes never leaving the three trembling but alive creatures in her care, replied with soft certainty, "We need to get them to the clinic. All three, immediately. I have a very strong suspicion about what we're going to find." And so, with sirens off and hearts on high alert, the small convoy moved 6 blocks to the veterinary clinic, a trail of compassion lit by flashing lights and human concern. Asterisk. The animals were placed in carriers, but the orange cat, the watchful guardian, had to be gently coaxed into his own. He didn't want to leave their side, not for a second. Even during the short ride, he let out mournful, anxious meows, each one like a heartbeat echoing down the tunnel of survival. Love does not abandon, not in the storm, not in silence, not even in separation. Inside the clinic, while Sarah waited in the lobby along with some of the neighbors who had followed the entire ordeal, the orange cat paced back and forth inside his crate. He could hear the faint mews of his kitten, the restless whimper of the puppy, and his soul rattled inside that small plastic box. Finally, Dr. Williams stepped into the lobby and made a decision not found in textbooks. "Let him out," she said to her assistant. "He's too distressed being separated, and to be honest, I don't think he's going anywhere." She was right. The moment the door swung open, the cat bolted not in fear, but in purpose. He leapt straight to the examination table where his tiny kitten was being gently examined. Standing tall on his hind legs, he watched with the intensity of a parent standing outside an operating room, refusing to leave. His eyes followed every motion, his ears tuned to every sound. He didn't hiss, didn't panic, he waited. With patience that broke hearts and stillness that screamed louder than any siren. When Dr. Williams finally emerged from the back room nearly an hour later, her eyes were wet, her voice filled with awe. "Sorry for the wait," she said, glancing around at the small crowd. "But we've made some discoveries. And they're remarkable. When an animal chooses to love, it does so with its whole life, not just its heart." "The first thing," Dr. Williams announced, eyes scanning the small group gathered with bated breath. "Is that the kitten?" "That's his baby. The resemblance is unmistakable, identical markings, bone structure, facial symmetry. But beyond genetics, their behavior confirms it. This little guy's about 3 weeks old, and he's been calling for his mama." Gasps and murmurs filled the clinic. "So, the cat stayed there for 3 days to save his child?" Sarah whispered, barely able to believe it. "Yes." Dr. Williams nodded. "But there's more." She adjusted her glasses and motioned toward the puppy. "This little guy is healthy, too. But here's the kicker, he and the adult cat show signs of a long-term bond. Mutual grooming, synchronized. Behavior sent familiarity. These two aren't strangers. They're family." That's when Mrs. Peterson, a quiet elder from the neighborhood, stepped forward, her voice trembling with memory. "I've seen them," she said, "behind Jimmy's grocery store. They share food scraps. That cat and the puppy, they've been together for months. I always thought it was sweet." Dr. Williams smiled. "That explains everything. What we have here isn't just a rescue. This was a father saving both his child and his best friend. True family isn't measured by species, it's forged by loyalty, carved by time, and sealed by selfless love." Jake, still in his soot-stained rescue gear, looked toward the ceiling in quiet thought. "That storm 3 days ago, it flooded everything. Winds up to 60 miles per hour. All the low-lying drains were overwhelmed." Sarah's eyes widened. 3 days, that's how long he sat there. Trying to tell us. She looked toward the orange cat, now nestled beside both smaller animals, grooming the kitten with meticulous care. And then, as if understanding the weight of what was said, the cat looked up. His golden eyes, deep pools of mystery and meaning, locked onto Sarah's. Then came a soft meow, not distressed this time. Not urgent, but full of something else, thankfulness. The room fell silent. It was as if the world paused to witness the sacred language of a soul who had been heard and rescued. And just when it felt like the story had reached its deepest note, the past came knocking. Sarah's brow furrowed. She stared at the orange cat, something tugging at her memory. "I know this sounds crazy," she muttered, pulling out her phone and scrolling through hundreds of photos. "But I think I've seen this cat before. Guardians come in all forms, some in boots, some in badges, and some in fur." There it was. A grainy photo from 2 years ago. A house fire on Maple Street. Flames engulfing the sky, smoke clouding everything. In the foreground, a cat, orange and determined, running back and forth, trying to get attention. Firefighters said he wouldn't. "Stop," Sarah told Dr. Williams. He led them to a back window, where an elderly woman was trapped. They said he saved her. Dr. Williams blinked. The markings, they match, same cat. Sarah swiped again. Another photo. Last year, Riverside Park, a girl went missing. This same cat was found meowing near a culvert. When searchers checked, they found her. She'd fallen in. Frank, who had stayed behind to hear what happened, leaned forward. "So, you're saying this cat has a history of saving lives?" "Not just people," Sarah said quietly. "Animals and people. It's like he knows." Dr. Williams placed a hand on her chest, watching as Hero, yes, that's what she was already calling him, curled his tail protectively around the kitten and the pup. Some animals just know. They feel suffering like a tuning fork, and they can't ignore it. There are souls among us who carry the burden of every cry for help, not because they have to, but because they can't bear not to. That's the Medical exams wrapped up, all three animals cleared of serious injuries. The room turned quiet with the same question floating unspoken. What now? The kitten was far too young to be separated from his father. The bond between the puppy and cat was too obvious, too sacred to break. They have to stay together, Dr. Williams said firmly. Separating them now, it would undo everything they just fought to survive. That's when Maria Santos, the jogger whose compassion had sparked this chain of miracles, stepped forward. I've been thinking about this all day, she said. My apartment doesn't allow pets, but maybe it's time I moved. But before anyone could respond, Sarah's phone buzzed. A call from an unfamiliar local number. She stepped away to answer. Animal control. This is Sarah. A hopeful voice responded, Hi, this is Beth Henderson. I saw the story on the news. Is it true? A cat, a kitten, and a puppy, all needing a home together? Yes, Sarah replied, surprised. Are you interested? Beth's voice cracked slightly, very much. My husband and I live just 2 blocks from the rescue. Our kids have been begging for pets. But after seeing what that cat did, we think he deserves a real family. Can you come meet them? We're already in the parking lot. Some adoptions are not choices. They are destiny finally finding its way home. 20 minutes later, the Henderson, Beth, her husband Mike, and their children Emma, 10, and Tommy, 8, walked into the clinic. It didn't take long. The moment Emma saw the orange cat, her breath caught. He's beautiful, she whispered. Can we call him Hero? Because that's what he is. Perfect, Beth said. And the kitten? Sunny, Tommy grinned, because he's so tiny and orange. And the puppy? Buddy, because he's everyone's friend. After the paperwork was signed and hearts were full, the Hendersons loaded 3 carriers into their minivan. But Hero rode with the door open, perched where he could see both Sunny and Buddy, calm, alert, at peace. 1 week later, Sarah visited their home. In the fenced backyard, Hero sprawled in a sunbeam, Sunny curled into his chest, Buddy resting his head on Hero's back. How are they adjusting? She asked. Beth smiled. Like they've always been here. Emma ran up. Every night, Hero checks on us. If Sunny cries, Hero brings him toys. He's still protecting everyone, Tommy added. But now we help him too. Sarah knelt beside Hero. Some heroes, she whispered, don't need to be seen. They just need to be believed. And as she left, Hero lifted his head, looked once at his sleeping family, and rested again. His mission was done for now. Some animals come into this world to remind us what we forgot. That love, loyalty, and bravery still walk among us, quietly, softly, on 4 paws.